FIFA 98, ISS Pro Evolution 2? Was one of these the greatest PS1 football game of all time? Or could it be something else? So dive in with me, scream at the screen as you disagree, and give your top 5 in the comments. Now here is mine. Number 5, this is football. This is the wild card, and that's why it precisely belongs in here. So by the late 90s, football games were increasingly becoming a battle between EA and Konami. Then Sony entered the fight with its very own This Is Football, and it genuinely felt different. One of the greatest strengths was the scale. Hundreds of teams from around the world, ranging from major European clubs, international sides, to much less obvious inclusions. And for someone playing football games in that era, having that breadth of choice was a massive attraction. But what really gave This Is Football personality was that it wasn't afraid to do things its competitors wouldn't. You could die, for example. Not as part of some cutscene or scripted sequence, you could deliberately throw yourself to the floor and try to con the referee. And sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you get booked. It's the sort of feature we'd probably never see in EAFC today, and it immediately gave the game an identity. Also offered a different style of football from FIFA and ISS. Wasn't as polished as FIFA, and for me wasn't as accomplished on the pitch as the Konami games, but it was accessible, ambitious and packed with content. And this is because it represented something we've majorly lost. Major publishers generally trying to build their own football game. So they didn't make a FIFA clone, they tried to establish a third major football franchise for its own platform, and for a while they probably succeeded. Number 4, the first of the FIFAs. This one is FIFA 99, and a lot of people are already arguing with me in my FIFA 98 video that 99 was better, and I understand why. FIFA 99 is arguably the better football game, but after the enormous success of FIFA Road to World Cup 98, EA could have easily added some new kits, updated the squads and called it a day. Instead, 99 concentrated heavily on improving what happened on the pitch. The game was now faster, smoother, player movements felt better, passing improved, animations were becoming more convincing, and the overall flow of the match was arguably superior to FIFA 98. You also had the classic late 90s EA presentation, menus, commentary, stadium, and of course another superb soundtrack. Fatboy Slim's Rockefeller Skank is practically welded into the memories of an entire generation of FIFA players. FIFA 99 also arrived as EA was increasingly leaning into club football, and the leagues people actually followed every week. FIFA 98's identity was heavily tied to that one of the World Cup. 99 started feeling much closer to the annual football experience, and that's why it would ultimately become my number 4. Because while I think FIFA 99 arguably plays better than 98, it doesn't quite have 98's extraordinary package or historical impact. But if someone told me FIFA 99 was the best FIFA on PS1, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. There's a very strong argument for it. Number 3, ISS Pro Evo. This is where things got serious, because ISS Pro is arguably where modern PES really begins. Konami had already produced an excellent football game, but it felt like another level with this one, where FIFA concentrated heavily on licenses and presentation, recreating the spectacle of watching football on TV. Konami increasingly obsessed with something else. What does football actually feel like to play? And if you could feel it, you felt it more through this game. Passing required more thought, positioning mattered, building an attack mattered, players made more intelligent runs. You couldn't just necessarily pick up the ball with a quick play, repeatedly sprint towards goal and smash it in from 40 yards. You actually had to play football, and that was the massive distinction. There was also something incredibly satisfying about scoring goals on Pro Evo. Goals didn't always feel predetermined by a handful of reliable shooting positions. You could construct them through balls, crosses, 1-2, long-range effort, scrappy rebounds, and that unpredictability gave the game tremendous replay value. Yet, the lack of comprehensive licensing was obvious. Fake names became part of the experience, but eventually we all fell in love with Roberto Larcos. But eventually something remarkable happened. People stopped caring because Konami had discovered something more valuable than licenses: gameplay loyalty. And why is it only number 3? Well, because ISS represents the point where Konami established a philosophy that would eventually turn PES into FIFA's greatest rival, and they weren't finished yet. Number 2 is FIFA Road to World Cup 98. Well, this isn't simple nostalgia. You probably knew I was going to put this in, but if you've seen the channel, I've done a few videos on this game because this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest game. You didn't just play the World Cup, you could attempt to qualify for it, and you could do that with a ridiculous number of international teams. Kids growing up, every football statistic, player, obscure national team was instantly available on a phone. This was almost an interactive football encyclopedia. You could discover countries you barely heard of. Then the presentation, stadiums, commentary, crowd, licensed kits, players, the World Cup atmosphere, and arguably one of the most iconic football game soundtracks ever assembled. Then EA casually included something that could have been in a separate game altogether. Indoor football, five-a-side style football inside the arena with walls surrounding the pitch. No throw-ins, the ball bouncing off the sides, absolute chaos. People still ask EA to bring it back years later, and that tells you everything. FIFA 98 wasn't necessarily the deepest football simulation on the PlayStation, but it's a complete football video game package. Very few of that generation couldn't touch it. Why is it number one? Why isn't it? Well, gameplay, because there's one PS1 football game that I think ultimately surpassed it where it mattered most. This is my favourite game from that era, ISS Pro Evo 2. If we're ranking the best football games to actually play on PlayStation, this is my number one. Konami had built with the first game and refined it. And remember, this is running on a PlayStation. Not PS2, not Xbox, the original PS1. Yet, there are moments where the football intelligence feels remarkably advanced for the hardware of that era. Matches develop differently. You have to create space, you have to think about where your next pass is going. Obsession and possession, it all matters. Timing, and importantly, football feels unpredictable. That's the magic ingredient. One match can become a scrappy midfield battle, and another one could be completely open. You could dominate and somehow lose. You can score an ugly goal. You could produce a beautiful passing move. That's football, and Konami understood that. There were still limitations. Licenses remained nowhere near FIFA's level. Presentation wasn't as spectacular. Commentary and atmosphere probably couldn't compete with the AI either, but once the whistle blew, none of that mattered. Pro Evo 2 demonstrated something that would define football gaming for much longer. You don't necessarily need the best licenses if you've got the best football, and that philosophy carried directly into the PS2 era. Winning 11, Pro Evo, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, PS6. The incredible FIFA vs PES rivalry of the 2000s didn't suddenly appear from nowhere. Its foundations were built right here on the PS1. Because FIFA 98 might be the PS1 football game I have the greatest nostalgia for, but ISS Pro Evo 2 is the one I'd choose if you handed me a controller and told me you have to play one of these tonight. And that's ultimately how I'm deciding the winner. So as I say, let me know in the comments. Do you agree, disagree, and what's your top 5? Let me know what other platform or gaming systems do you want me to make the top 5 football games in of all time as well. Let me know in the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe. Goodbye.